In the year 1347, Europe was a world full of life, and it had no idea what was coming. It began with 12 ships docking in Sicily, and what was on board would change history forever. The sailors were covered in black pus. Filled boils, most were already dead. Word spread to the rulers of Europe, but no one truly understood what was happening. The true killer was invisible, a bacterium called Yersinia pestis, carried by fleas on black rats. The plague began in Central Asia, traveled along the Silk Road, and reached Europe's shores by sea. Mongol soldiers catapulted plague, infected corpses into the city of Kaffa, history's first biological weapon. Fleeing traders unknowingly carried the plague with them on every ship they boarded. Within weeks of arrival, every city the plague touched fell silent. The first sign was a swollen lymph node called a buboblack, hard and unbearably painful. The plague came in 3 deadly forms: bubonic, pneumonic, and septicemic, each more lethal than the last. Plague doctors wore beak masks stuffed with herbs, believing bad air was the cause of death. Families faced an impossible choice: care for their loved ones and risk death, or flee and survive. In some towns, people died so fast that there was no one left to bury the dead. Mass graves were dug outside city walls, thousands buried together with no names, no prayers. Whoever could afford to flee fled, but they carried the plague with them wherever they went. In just 3 years, the Black Death spread from Italy to England, killing as it moved. The Italian writer Boccaccio described streets filled with corpses, a world that had lost all order. The church lost half its clergy, and with them, the spiritual backbone of medieval society. Pope Clement VI sat between 2 large fires. His doctors believed the heat would purify the air around him. Flagellants marched through Europe, whipping themselves bloody, believing suffering would stop God's punishment. Desperate for answers, many blamed Jewish communities, leading to horrific violence across Europe. Medieval scientists blamed a triple conjunction of planets. They had no concept of bacteria or germs. With so many dead, fields went unplanted, and famine began to follow death. Fewer workers meant those who survived could demand higher wages. Peasants gained power for the first time. Some cities lost over 60% of their population. Entire neighborhoods became ghost towns overnight. Countless children were orphaned, left alone in homes marked with the sign of plague. Trade collapsed. The economic engine of medieval Europe ground to a complete halt. Monks kept meticulous death records, and the numbers they wrote down were almost unbelievable. Historians estimate that between 30 and 60% of Europe's entire population died. Up to 25 million people. Death became the obsession of an entire civilization. Art, religion, and daily life were never the same. Artists created the dance macabre, the dance of death, showing that plague spared no one, not even royalty. Gravediggers were among the few who found steady work, and most of them died too. Kings and queens died just like peasants. The plague did not respect rank or wealth. The first great wave of the Black Death lasted from 1347 to 1351, but it was only the beginning. Venice created the world's first quarantine, forcing ships to wait 40 days before docking. The word quarantine comes from the Italian quarantina, meaning 40 days of isolation. Medieval medicine had no tools to fight the plague, but isolation was accidentally their most effective weapon. The plague returned again and again, wave after wave, striking Europe for the next 300 years. The labor shortage gave surviving peasants unprecedented power. The feudal system began to collapse. The church's failure to stop the plague pushed thinkers to question faith and start trusting science. After the devastation, Europe slowly rebuilt, and the survivors inherited a completely different world. Survivors inherited the wealth of entire families, creating sudden social mobility never seen before. Many historians believe the Black Death helped trigger the Renaissance, a rebirth born from collective trauma. In 1894, scientist Alexandre Yersin finally identified the bacteria responsible, naming it Yersinia pestis. Yersinia pestis still exists today, living in wild rodents on every inhabited continent except Australia. Every year, thousands of people still get the plague. Most cases are in Africa, Asia, and the western United States. Today, antibiotics can cure the plague if caught early. What once killed millions is now treatable. But scientists warn antibiotic-resistant strains of Yersinia pestis have already been found. The difference between then and now is medicine, and medicine can be lost if we stop protecting it. Antibiotic resistance is one of the greatest threats to modern civilization, and it is already happening. In our hyper-connected world, a disease can travel from a remote village to every continent in 24 hours. The Silk Road of 1347 is today's airline network, and it moves infection at the speed of a jet engine. Over 1 billion people live in conditions where plague and other deadly diseases can spread easily. The World Health Organization monitors plague outbreaks continuously. It is still classified as a re-emerging disease. In 2017, Madagascar suffered a major outbreak, over 2,000 cases and more than 200 deaths. Field researchers risked their lives collecting plague samples to track how the bacteria is evolving. A reliable plague vaccine does not yet exist for humans. Research is ongoing but underfunded. Every health expert agrees it is not a question of if another pandemic will hit, but when. The conditions that enabled the Black Death, inequality, poor sanitation, and unpreparedness still exist today. Scientists have excavated Black Death burial pits and extracted DNA from 700-year-old victims. Ancient DNA analysis confirmed the Black Death was caused by a single strain of Yersinia pestis. It was one epidemic. These ancient genomes have helped scientists trace the exact origin and spread of the original plague. In 1347, a plague diagnosis was a death sentence. Today, 3 days of antibiotics can save your life. Let us not forget 25 million human beings died. Each one had a name, a family, a dream. Children survived without parents. Parents survived without children. Grief was the new normal. Faith collapsed when prayers went unanswered. Many survivors turned away from the church forever. The Black Death didn't just kill people, it killed the medieval worldview and gave birth to a new one. New universities opened after the plague. A generation hungry for knowledge rebuilt European education. The printing press, invented just decades after the Black Death, spread new ideas faster than any plague. The labor shortages caused by plague pushed Europe to seek new trade routes, triggering the age of exploration. Out of the deepest darkness humanity had ever known, a new world was slowly being born. The conditions for plague still exist. Poverty, overcrowding, and lack of clean water are not history. Today's megacities, with millions living in close quarters, are the perfect breeding ground for epidemics. Global health workers on the front lines are our first and most important line of defense. In 2020, the world got a reminder: a pandemic can shut down civilization faster than any war. The empty streets of 2020 echoed the empty streets of 1348. History had not forgotten us. Exponential spread is the most terrifying force in nature, and the Black Death showed us exactly how it works. Scientists warn that underfunding public health is like removing fire alarms to save money, dangerous beyond measure. The overuse of antibiotics is creating superbugs, bacteria that no medicine can kill. Vaccine hesitancy is not new in medieval times. People refused quarantine too, and millions paid with their lives. The only thing standing between us and another Black Death is preparation, science, and global cooperation. No single country can fight a pandemic alone. The Black Death taught us that borders mean nothing to bacteria. Every life saved from disease is a victory that medieval Europe never got to experience. We stand on the shoulders of those who died. Every medical advance was bought with human suffering. Remembering history is not just about the past, it is about protecting our future. We must teach every generation what happens when humanity is unprepared for the invisible enemy. Our civilization is more complex and more vulnerable than any that came before. The stakes have never been higher. Science has given us tools that medieval humanity could only dream of, but tools only work if we use them. Time does not move backward, but history will repeat itself if we choose ignorance over knowledge. Every vaccine given today honors the memory of those who died when no vaccine existed. Modern healthcare workers are the plague doctors of our era, underpaid, overworked, and absolutely essential. Today's global disease surveillance network monitors hundreds of pathogens in real time, built to prevent the next Black Death. Genomics, AI, and rapid vaccine technology have given humanity its best ever chance against pandemic disease. Every scroll that recorded those deaths, every data point, every genome, all of it is our collective warning system. Life always returns, but we owe it to those who did not survive to build a world that is ready. After 6 years of death, the first wave was over. Europe was broken but not finished. The survivors made a silent vow to rebuild, to remember, and to never let this happen again. The bridge between that darkness and our light is built entirely of human knowledge. Guard it with your life. The Black Death killed half of Europe, but it could not kill the human will to survive, to learn, and to rise again.